You wouldn't know it, but as you gaze at the heart of Kinsale in early February, there's actually more happening than meets the eye. Looking down on the busy harbour, with a grain ship unloading, perched high up in these sycamore trees, there's a heronry, and a long-established one at that. Man may toil, but nature too is at work. It's that time again. The heron's breeding season begins as early as February and continues through May or June. But first things first, the male selects a nest site. It could very well be on the site of an old nest. Next up, the male must find a suitable female. And he does this, as we say in Cork, by throwing shapes. More formally, this come-hither behaviour is known as displaying. The lunging and bill clapping comprise most of the courtship dance performed by the male to impress the female. If he allows her to stay, then they begin a bout of mutual grooming. At this point, all going well, they stay together throughout the breeding season. Time to build a nest now, but it's actually the female who remains there all day, tirelessly working the material to construct the nest. Even as the female continues with the work, the male preens her. It's all part of the courtship. During this courtship period, the normally yellow-coloured bill and legs change to a deep orange, and the black crests become more developed. It looks like the female is doing all the work constructing the nest, but now we see the male in action. Most supplies are gathered by the male, but finding and delivering of nest materials seems to be never-ending, with the heron going to great lengths to find twigs and dense undergrowth. This isn't easy for a big bird with long legs. You see, the heron, or the crane as we call him in Ireland, is built for wading in water, not for clambering in trees. At the nest, the material, regardless of its size, is always transferred beak to beak to its mate. The herons in Kinsale are accustomed to a high level of urban noise. It's been proved that some small birds will sing at a higher frequency to be heard over the cacophony of daily life in order to attract a mate. Meanwhile, back in the nest, the male flies in, not with twigs this time, but to job share. They take turns incubating the eggs for the next month. Not an easy task, folding those legs carefully around the eggs. The chicks are born, covered in down and their eyes wide open. From the moment the eggs hatch, the chicks are entirely dependent on their parents for food. The loud cackling begins. Each female lays 3 to 5 eggs per season, but usually only 2 survive. The strongest may push others out of the nest and even cannibalize deceased nestmates. The chicks learn fast and soon start to imitate the adults' behavior in the important tasks of preening and stretching. The loud cackling sounds of the hungry chicks are heard throughout the day. They remain in the nest for anything up to 20 days, during which they spend most of their time standing, sleeping, begging for food and scrapping amongst themselves. Sometimes even eating sticks. The young chicks make constant vocal demands. The technique of feeding is interesting to say the least. The parent puts its bill in the throat of the young chick and then regurgitates some partially digested fish. The chick's world is full of sound, both natural sound and man-made. They prepare to take flight for the first time from these sycamore trees in Kinsale to a more natural world. They will almost certainly return here, in time.